Qwertykeys have been a prominent name in the budget scene for quite some time, with the release of the Neo70 carrying on the trend of low-priced, highly accessible boards, but now in collaboration with another designer. The next board in the Neo lineup seems to one-up this design, using a magnetic closure system for rebuilding, keeping the same great design language and low price. As we come towards the end of 2023 with a number of great budget boards and FRL keyboards releasing, what features are offered here that set it apart from the rest? And what's next for budget boards as we near 2024? Let's talk about it. The Neo70 is an FRL-less TKL keyboard, a layout that has been pretty popular this year, from high-end boards like the Matrix Lab Navi to the Cycle 7 that is the main competitor to this board in terms of price point and features. The board continues what its predecessor started, offering a wide variety of anodized and coated colours with various backweights and plate options, introducing new interesting colours like avocado and the inclusion of magnetic badges in 3 different colours. This would have been unheard of not even a year ago. The Neo70 also follows the Neo65 in price, starting at a ridiculously low $100 for what is on offer here, a price including weight, plate, stabilisers and PCB. One thing that I was very impressed with when I saw it on the QK75N was the use of magnetic connectors for the PCB. This is something that I'm glad to see is also being utilised here, as it is a huge quality of life adjustment for those who like to tinker around with keyboards, as there's no more messing around with JST cables or ribbon cables to connect the PCB to the daughter board. I like this even more for a board like this, as it allows you to have 2 completely separate PCBs for the nav cluster and the main board, without needing to connect these through a second cable like we've seen on previous boards such as the Tenet. If we now look at the design aspects of the board, the Neo70 carries the same simplistic yet elegant design language that was very prevalent on the Neo65. A unibody case, slim bezels, and the Orbit logo that has taken a move from the back weight to the removable portion above the arrow cluster. What it does differently, however, is by using interesting implementations of magnets, meaning no screws are needed to enter the assembly to remove the PCB. This is seen both on the bottom of the board to remove the main PCB, as well as the removable portion above the arrow cluster, that allows the nav cluster PCB to be pulled out through the well-designed hole in the middle of the PCB. The continuity through the designs can easily be seen from the typing angle to the bezels, as well as seen through the use of the Orbit logo, which I really like the placement of here, adding a second magnetised badge to the back sporting the Neo logo itself. I've already touched on the use of magnets, but I really do think this board is a huge improvement over the Neo65. The only real nitpick I had about that board was having to take off the back weight to take out the ribbon cable to rebuild the board, which you now don't have to do either of for the Neo70, making it far easier to take apart and rebuild. Now, I think the board both sounds and looks great. I decided to build this up with the Neo white switches and topped it with G&K foundation, mostly to give myself a comparison against the Neo65. And I gotta say, this thing really ticks all the boxes for me, even if I was reminded why I hate POM plates. I really wish I had a plate fork. I love the look of the new colours that have been offered for the Neo70, and the coating on the white unit I have is smooth to the touch and nice and even throughout, as expected from the quality we saw on the Neo65. As with the 65, I would have liked to see multiple hardnesses for the gaskets. But saying this, the improved durability gaskets that seem to be offered on the Neo70 seem to be a little on the stiffer side, so I might be biased, but the typing feel suits my preferences a lot more with these gaskets. Right, it's a new day and I thought I'd see how easy this thing is to rebuild. The build that I end up landing on lines a lot more to my preferred sound and feel, but honestly this has been one of my favourite builds as of late. I was hoping there would be a mini O-ring for the nav and arrow cluster instead of having to go with the gaskets, so if the lack of symmetry between the two is something that will bother you, it's worth keeping in mind. That aside, the rebuilding process with this thing really is a dream. Very simple yet effective, but has been able to make what shouldn't be a unibody case a singular piece. Talking about being easy to rebuild, the main board that people are going to compare this to is the TKD Cycle 7 that released earlier this year. This is another low-cost FRL board that really set another turning point in this hobby, with dual mounting, multiple weights in both brass and stainless steel providing good heft and a ball catch closure that makes building as easy as pulling out the top case. I think comparing the boards, they both have their advantages over one another. And from an aesthetics point of view, both have different bezel sizes, side profiles and stylistic choices overall, which will appeal to different people. I do think the Neo70 is the first board that's released since the Cycle Cycle 7 that goes toe to toe with it in the budget space, although taking a more discreet, lightweight, space-saving angle, as opposed to the traditional 2kg hefty custom that the Cycle 7 replicates. Now, these aren't the only implementations we've seen in the space. The first one that comes to mind is the J02 Blackout Edition by Jay from Prototypist. This was a board that still to this day I regret not picking up, being the latest addition to the J series of boards, implementing the same design language but adding a singular piece gasket system and the use of magnets to quickly remove the top case to switch internals in an instant. The Qwertykeys, which was first teased in March and is now soon to hit group buy, utilises a very similar ball catch system to the Cycle 7, as well as a magnetic triangle badge that sits in the middle of the almost intimidating variety of backweight options that are offered. The last board, which should have started prototyping last month, is the latest TKL offering from Works. The N680 is a board that I for one am extremely excited about. Not only is this Hall effect switch compatible, as well as offering a brass cone mounting style, but the build has been stated to require no tools for assembly. I haven't seen any details regarding the specific closure system, but I'm excited to see how he's going to implement this in the board once it releases. When you look at the pricing breakdown of the Neo70, it's actually astonishing what you get for your money. The unit I have here is on the higher end in terms of price, but the cheaper weights also look incredible if you weren't a fan of the fingerprint magnet that I have. I think in the realms of closure mechanisms and quality of life adjustments for enthusiasts, it will be interesting to see where this goes in the hobby next. Gion is always someone I have my eye on when it comes to bringing new things into the space, but I'm interested to see what other designs and makers have cooking from this angle. I think there is a potential for a number of designs to implement this ball catch system similar to the Cycle 7, and with Qwertykeys showing us there may not be any need for a JST or ribbon cables going forward, we're sure to see new takes on this as well. The rise of these great budget options is something that I've got conflicting feelings towards. Ultimately, this is a stellar keyboard, and if I'm being honest, I've used this as a daily driver since it landed on my doorstep. The $100 starting point is a bit of a tease, because depending how you want to build this thing, it's going to be a little bit more than that. But even at the top end of the spectrum, $155 plus $30 for shipping is still a ridiculously good deal for what you're getting here. Now, I've touched upon what new tech is upcoming in the space. With all these fantastic budget options coming, with prices seemingly getting lower and lower, you may be wondering if there's any reason to continue buying high-end boards going forward. Well, personally I think so. It all depends why you're in this hobby in the first place. If you want one good sounding, nice feeling board, then any of these recent budget options are going to be perfect for you and allow you to try out any of the modifications or switches or plate options that you want. But for me, the details behind a keyboard's design is what I value over the sound. And a keyboard with a story behind its conception, reasoning behind all the little details in its design, these are the things that I'll keep looking for in high-end customs. With the vast majority of boards now having pretty damn good sound signatures without the need to do any of the modifications that were almost necessary pre-2022, the aesthetic choices for certain boards are probably going to take precedent for people when choosing whether they want to pick up a board going forward. The meaning behind the little things like the colour swatch pick for the anodization, the graphic choices for the weight, Toblerone, no Toblerone, you get the idea. New boards on the way seem to need to differentiate themselves from the Neo70s of the space. They otherwise can't keep up with on a pricing front. And if this differentiation is something that matches my current aesthetic obsessions held within my Pinterest saves, then it's definitely going to be something that I've got my eye on. As someone who has a thing for excessively long keyboards and has eagerly been awaiting this board for months, it really didn't disappoint. The Neo70 has impressed me more than its predecessor, offering features that a year ago would have been unheard of at this price point. I'm eager to see what the upcoming offerings from Neo will bring us, whether we will continue seeing improvements from a building perspective, and what changes, if any, we will see from a design perspective from the brand released in 2024. Now, that's all I had on the Neo70. If you've enjoyed today's video, do make sure to like it and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your thought on the boards or the state of budget keyboards in general in the comments down below. All my socials are linked in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you nerds in the next one. Peace!